Hello everyone, are you ready for race day 2? We are at the Lausitzring, and did we have a crazy race yesterday? It was raining so hard, we had 2 red flags, and guess what? Today it looks like it's going to be a gamble again. It looks good and we're hoping for a dry qualifying, but who knows what the weather god has in stock for us today. The leader of the championship is Kelvin van der Linde. After a streak of bad luck, he managed to win the race yesterday. He's got 43 points in the championships. By the way, the same as Maro Engel. But as you can see, Kelvin is really in good spirits, dancing away, ready to get into the car, ready for the qualifying, because as we all know, obviously it's about every single point. So qualifying matters so much, even though it's only the second race weekend of the brand new DTM season 2024. And now we're psyched. So where are the commentators? Here they are.
Thanks very much indeed, Verena. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Lausitzring. Rain, what rain? It's beautiful again here, as it was yesterday morning, as it was 10 minutes before the race started yesterday. And then I think to say the heavens open would be an understatement, a proper cloudburst. And then another one, 2 red flags, a delay to the race. And lots of drama yesterday, and Verena is absolutely spot on in saying that there's a chance it might all happen again this afternoon. The forecast is until about 12 o'clock today. It's all good, it's all fine, but between 12 and 4 there is a 50% chance of some more thunderstorms. So could happen, might not. But for one thing is for sure, it's going to be a dry qualifying session. But the track is going to be very different to what it was yesterday morning, because we had an awful lot of rain, as you know, yesterday. And that went on into the night. There was lightning, there was thunder, all the way through till around about 9 o'clock last night. So the track has dried up, but all that rubber from yesterday and the preceding day washed away. The track cleaned up, and it will be up for the drivers and the teams now to try and react to that in terms of setting up their cars. It's cooler as well. It's 18 degrees rather than around about 22 degrees yesterday. So championship-wise, incredibly, Kelvin van der Linde went from 9th to 1st in the championship yesterday with his race win. That is symptomatic of the fact that not many drivers are having consistently good races this year. So a 3rd different winner from 3 races. We've had 3 different pole sitters. Kelvin van der Linde and Maro Engel are tied on 43 points each, but when you have a tie, you can't back the most number of wins, and if that's tied, the most number of second place finishes, and so on. And you never know, that might be a factor at the end of the championship. But Kelvin's had 1 win, and Maro has had 2 second place finishes, so it is Kelvin that gets the championship lead. Ricardo Feller there, 3rd in the championship standings. Topsy-turvy race for him yesterday. Started 3rd, got up to 2nd immediately ahead of Thomas Preining into the 1st corner. And then when the heavens opened, he had to stay out a lap longer than his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. They brought Kelvin in 1st at Abt, and that was when the rain worsened, and that really cost him. So he dropped down to 14th place, but fought his way back up to 5th position. Great to see Nicky Tim getting his points on the board at last after some bad luck at Oschersleben. He had 2 retirements there, but he picked up an 8th place finish yesterday. And Arjun Maini continues his best start to a DTM season yet. He's had an 8th, a 4th, and yesterday a 7th place finish. He's qualified in the top 5 every single time this season, and he looks dangerous. And Lucas Auer always looks like he's capable of taking home the silverware. He got up to 4th place in the race yesterday, 3 times a winner here. It was good to see Thomas Preining with a smile on his face again. They worked really hard on the car after working away around the new BOP ride height changes they had to the car at Oschersleben. It wasn't competitive there. It's been competitive all weekend long here, and Thomas, the defending champion, getting onto the podium for the first time this season. Marco Wittmann's had a difficult start to the season, which could have been brightened had the race been 5.5 minutes shorter at Oschersleben by a race win, but it wasn't. He picked some points up yesterday, but difficult day again for him. Lucas Stoltz was one of many drivers that ended up picking up penalties for pit stop infringements. He had to go through the penalty box, but again he picked up points, and he's 4th in the championship, Lucas Stoltz. Real unsettling race for Arjun Nguyen. Went through the gravel trap like lots of them did when he was on slicks and the wet conditions. Dropped down the order. He qualified in the top 4. And then he had a battle with Jack Aitken, contact between them. The Ferrari sent into a spin. And then off the back of some contact with Mirko Bortolotti, who was on a charge as the only driver to go on slick tyres on a driving track at the end of the race. Arjun Nguyen had a puncture, a right rear puncture, just about limped over the line and just about got into the points. So That's the scenario in terms of drivers' standings. In terms of the teams and manufacturers' standings, Mercedes lead the manufacturers' standings on 90 points after 3 races. Audi are second on 78, third on 77, a Lamborghini. And Abt Sportsline lead the way in the Teams Championship now after the win yesterday. They've got 74 points, but only 2 behind them are Winwood Racing. That's a team of Maro Engel, who has been there up in second place on the last 2 races now, and 63 points for Mercedes-AMG Team HRT, also having an excellent start to the season. So that's the scenario. Qualifying, let's see how this pans out. The top 3 from yesterday's race will carry in the race later on success ballast, but not in qualifying, so it won't affect things there, as Clement Schmidt's McLaren has stopped out on circuit, and Ben Durr's car has stopped out on circuit and is struggling to get going again. No, it is. Right, first time, Clement Schmidt, the 85 car, and a yellow flag in turn 3 as a result of that. So he's just got out of the pits, and it's come to a halt, and that is not going to be ideal news for anybody. Although yesterday, and it's been the case in lots of qualifying sessions now, it's a 20-minute session, but they just use it as a bit of a recce for the first 10 minutes normally, and then once you get to 10 minutes, 10.5 minutes to go, that yesterday was when they started to build up. They had 2 or 3 build-up laps, most of them, and then 2 or 3 flying laps right at the end of the session. Remember, 3 points for qualifying on pole, 2 points for qualifying second, and a point for third, so we could even see a change of championship lead in this qualifying session. Let's see if we can find out the problem on team radio.
Fuel pressure, I have no fuel pressure. I'm losing the engine. Can I do something to open somewhere, a vent or whatever?
So fuel pressure issue being reported by Clement Schmidt. That's why the car has ground to a halt. You see these Pirelli slick tyres being shaved here, as they're allowed to do. You get 3 sets of new Pirelli slick tyres at this racetrack to last for 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races. So qualifying underway, nobody yet really attacking it. And good news, Clement Schmidt has got the car fired up and underway, so he'll get going again. Probably come back to the pits to have the car checked out, but the McLaren back underway. So welcome everybody to qualifying, to our 4th qualifying session of the year. My name's Chris Hartley, and up in the commentary box overlooking the pit lane and the whole of the circuit with our wonderful view here at the Lausitzring, it's good morning to Brian Oliver.
Morning, Chris. Lovely sunny day here. I'm still reeling from yesterday. It was a marathon effort, but it was such an entertaining race. Of course, Kelvin van der Linde, such a star, controlling the race from the front in such challenging conditions. But for me, the biggest star of all was probably Mirko Bortolotti, the driver who took that gamble on the slick tyres. Watching him picking up the pace and coming through the lower reaches of the point-scoring cars towards the end of the race was very entertaining. Another man who was going well, certainly in the drive, was that man there, Sheldon van der Linde. Before the rains were coming, he was looking very rapid, moving his way forwards, and he would certainly be a contender today to be somewhere near the front of the grid. Less so for Clement Schmidt. You can see the cars come to a stop again. He got it going briefly, but clearly he's struggling, so he's on the radio to the team.
I have again no fuel. I have again no fuel pressure. Fucking hell! Why do we always close this fucking vent? Already yesterday Max did something when I had no fuel pressure.
Apologies for the choice language. That's €2 in the swear box from Clement Schmidt, but understandably he's frustrated with what sounds like a recurring problem. So he's limped a bit further on, and the car has stopped again, like right at the end of the lap on the pit lane entry. So he's stopped for now, and that's disrupted his session for sure. Just to give you an idea what sorts of times we might be looking at, well, the qualifying lap record last year, much hotter conditions on an August weekend, was set by Jack Aitken's Ferrari, 1 minute 19.937, but we didn't get anywhere close to that yesterday, with a 1:20.706 being the pole time of Kelvin van der Linde, who was only on pole by 6 thousandths of a second, the closest gap we've had, and Thomas Preining was second best to him. Ricardo fell at 3rd quickest yesterday. I think Ricardo will be hopeful of a good Sunday today, because he was oh so close to a win here last year. He was on the pace yesterday, did briefly lead, but came back well through the order. They know they've got a car which is capable of winning after yesterday, albeit in the wet conditions, but the Audis have looked good in the dry as well. And Ricciardo, unlike Kelvin van der Linde, won't have 20 kilograms of success ballast on his car. René Rast back out. He needs a good day, doesn't he, Brian? Because he hasn't. I mean, he's picked up some points in 2 of the 3 races, but a retirement yesterday when the car just stopped on him. I went back out and tested it for a few laps, but then retired ultimately. So still looking for his first really good finish and first podium of the season.
Yeah, really tough day yesterday. He came in for his pit stop. The car stopped and they couldn't get it going again. They worked on it. He came out 6 laps down and used it as a bit of a test session. Probably picked up some good data in the greasy conditions. But as you say, that's not why René Rast is here this weekend, to pick up data and test. He's here to score points. He got 2 7th places at Oschersleben, but an absolute championship contender, one of the pre-season favourites, of course, a 3 times champion in DTM, would love to make it 4, but he's already a little bit on the back foot this season. The only perhaps saving grace is that many of his championship rivals have also had fairly inconsistent seasons so far as well.
Yeah, true. And he had not a great start to the year last year when in the Oschersleben race he sheared a wheel, lost the wheel and retired from that one. Then he had to miss the Zandvoort round early season because of his Formula E commitments, but he still managed to somehow finish in 5th place in the championship. Mind you, that was still his worst season in DTM, but new to BMW, of course, last year, so there was lots to learn on both sides. But René, never rule him out. He's quickest so far with a 122.7. It's still nowhere near the sorts of pace we're expecting, but we don't know if we're going to get down to the 120s again with, as I say, all that overnight rain. It might be a slower track, it's cooler conditions, or it might be a slightly quicker track because it's a bit cooler. We'll find out, but 120.7 is the sort of time we've got in mind. For now, I would have thought you need to be getting in at least the low 1 minute 21s though to have a sniff of pole position. For now, it's only the BMWs that have been really setting any kind of lap times. René Rast and Marco Wittmann are 2 of the 3 cars on track. The other one, I'm pleased to say, for now, if it keeps going, is the McLaren of Clement Schmidt, who's gone back out there.
Yeah, they've clearly found out what the fuel issue is. I should think Schubert Motorsport would be quite happy if they stop the clock now. 1, 2, 3 at the top of the timing screens, and Kelvin van der Linde in 4th. But as you've mentioned, most of the cars, as has become the norm, are playing Russian roulette and waiting till later in the session. And certainly with all that rain that we had, it would seem reasonable to guess that the track is going to get quicker as more and more rubber gets laid down as this session goes on. We saw it yesterday, the last couple of minutes of quali, where the times were tumbling and drivers were jumping to the top of the timing screens one after the other, and I get the feeling that might be the case today. So it's a bit quiet at the moment as Clement Schmidt comes back into the pit, so I wonder if there is still an issue there or whether they're just checking it. But with 12 minutes to go, I think we're going to have 2 or 3 minutes of a relative quiet, system checks, installation laps, etc. But as this session gets into the second half and into the final quarter especially, it's going to get very, very busy and expect to see the times tumbling.
Yeah, absolutely right. René Rast and Marco Wittmann opting to do something slightly different in staying out there early, but everybody beginning to join them now as Clement Schmidt's McLaren is wheeled back into the garage. René Rast with 26 career pole positions, and Marco Wittmann nearly 3/10 of a second behind him at the moment, but only in the low 1 minute 22s. René Rast was down a bit on his own Sector 2 time, but set the best Sector 1 time so far. So this overall could be an improvement. René comes through, 122.164 seconds. He gets the time down to now. So Rast comes through. Marco Wittmann doesn't complete his lap, so he bows for the pit. Sheldon van der Linde, the other BMW, is already in the pits. But more drivers starting to come out now. In fact, most of them starting to come out. The only one that looks like he hasn't yet come out is, I think, Ricardo Feller. So Ricardo Feller's still in there, but pretty much everybody else out on track now. They need to be, really, because there's about half the session to go. 10 minutes, 40 seconds left on the clock. Thomas Preining not had the ideal start to the season at Oschersleben, but if he finishes the race today in the points, that will be 20 consecutive point-scoring races. He finished in all races last year in the points, all 16 of them. And even though he didn't have a great Oschersleben, he's still been in the points in every race this season. So it'd be 20 on the trot if he can manage that. It's quite an achievement, isn't it?
Yeah, now you've done it. If he doesn't score, he's going to come looking for you. You know that. Whatever the issue was with the car at Oschersleben, they've worked very hard at Manthey EMA. They certainly feel disadvantaged by the ride height that has been thrown at them via the BOP. They've worked hard to get that car dialed in. Well, yesterday it looked good in the wet, but it also looked good in the dry. So clearly making good progress. The defending champion weaving at the moment to get the heat into the tyres. Of course, tyre warmers are not allowed. Interesting strategy, though, from Schubert Motorsport. They've got both cars. They've had them out on the track early on. And René Rast, who's been pushing quite hard, he's into the pits now, as is Marco Wittmann. Sheldon van der Linde's out on track. So 122.164 is the benchmark from René Rast. Expect to see him back out later on in this session as he tries to better that.
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll go out with 4 or 5 minutes to go and have a couple of build-up laps and then go for it again. But he's got a banker lap in there. Don't think it's going to be good enough to keep him up there. Thomas Preining now about to go on to another lap, whether this will be the flying lap or the next one. Yesterday, they tended to do 2 laps on the Pirellis and then get going. His press conference after the race yesterday, Thomas Preining was saying, he was asked, why were you uncompetitive at Oschersleben? He said, well, as we've said, there was a change to the ride height. It was raised a little bit, and we didn't have time to react to it. We didn't know how to react to it. The team's worked really hard, gone through all the data, looked at the setup, and now we think we've figured it out. And certainly, as you said, looked good on Friday in dry and wet conditions. Great drone shot here, following then the 2023 DTM champion, Thomas Preining, and with the winning team from last year as well, teams champions, Manthey EMA, one of Manthey's team, so successful over the years in the Nürburgring 24-hour race, and of course they race overseas as well. And EMA, the Melbourne-based team that have joined forces with them since the return to DTM last year. And it's the cars, when they're parked up at the garages, always have a cuddly kangaroo toy on the roofs of the cars when they're sat ready to go out. And the bright livery there on the Grello car, the green and yellow car of Thomas Preining, with lots of fans here this weekend, all the merchandise being spurned by the fans, many of them here this weekend. So Preining's still building up. We still see him weaving and trying to generate some heat into the tyres. But even that's 4th quickest at the moment, because we haven't really had a proper flying lap yet.
Clemens Schmid has been reported to the stewards now, so his day's going from bad to worse for blocking Ian Chan-Nguyen in turn 2. I'm not entirely sure he was under control of the blocking. If the car had no power, then he was probably going to struggle, wasn't he?
René Rast pretty quickly back out, actually. We saw Torsten Schubert, the Schubert Motorsport team boss, watching on. And, yeah, they've got René out there early. I suspect they probably wanted to get him out there early, even though they tested the car yesterday after its fault where it failed to fire back up. He came in to change tyres. That was when the car had the problem, when he went from slicks to wets, and he just wouldn't fire back up. But probably wanted to just get him out there early and make sure everything was definitely okay. On board with Sheldon van der Linden. You're right, Brian. He pulled off some really good moves, particularly into turn 1 yesterday. He wasn't afraid of going 2 or 3 abreast into that corner, was he?
No, and I should think that Schubert will be taking whatever data they had from that car and applying it to the others, because of the BMWs, who look by far the most dialed in, currently backing out of it at the moment, just building the heat in those tyres, the out lap, building the temperature, and then in a bit the push lap. We're into 6.5 minutes remaining of the session, so the times are going to have to start coming before too long. Sheldon van der Linden, well, he's in 3rd at the moment, but the 123.838, that is nowhere near what he can do in that car.
Looking back at Ian Chan-Nguyen from Luca Engster's car, both of these went off into the gravel track pretty much at the same time yesterday when the heavens opened, and as I said, Nguyen had more dramas later on in the race. He won't mind rain because he was mighty quick at the free practice 2 session yesterday, on Friday in the wet, and has been a winner here in wet conditions in the ADAC GT Masters Championship in the past as well. He's gone 3rd quickest on that lap. Now, Kelvin van der Linde, yesterday's pole sitter, yesterday's winner, the championship leader, has just put in the absolute best first sector in the number 3 Abt Sportsline car. He's just going through turn 7 at the moment, the big arcing right-hander out there in the infield, and about to come towards the end of the next split. He's just behind Sheldon van der Linde on the track. You're on board with him now as he makes his way into the left-hander at turn 8, down to 2nd gear, 85 kilometres an hour. It's a personal best through that sector as well. Luca Engster has put the absolute best first sector in for now, though. He goes a tiny bit quicker. He's further back in the lap as Kelvin now works his way around this tight sequence of corners at the end of the lap. Second gear through the right at turn 10, second gear through the left at turn 11, winding up to third gear and about 170 kilometres an hour as you go into turn 12, and then he'll get up to fifth gear. By the time he gets to the start-finish straight, he'll be doing in excess of 250 kilometres an hour, and it looked like he backed off a bit in that third sector, and he did, but Luca Engstler is now the one to keep an eye on, potentially, because he was absolute best in sectors 1 and 2, but further back on the lap, the number 7 Audi of Ricardo Feller has now done the best sector 2 time. So Engstler looks like he's going to go initially on to provisional pole position here, but I think Ricardo Feller might be the one to watch. No, he loses out in the final sector as well. So Ricardo Feller in the final corner at the moment in the Autosportsline Audi number 7. Christian Engelhardt has gone up to third place for now. Here comes Ricardo Feller, and he goes to the top of the times. 1.5 tenths clear of anybody, a 122.011, but the track for now looks a bit slower than yesterday, Brian.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But Autosportsline really got a good setup here this weekend as Christian Engelhardt now jumps to the top, a 121.843, so that's a little bit closer to what we're expecting. So Christian Engelhardt, a very good lap for him. No purple sectors in sector 1 and 2, but sector 3, he was the quickest of anybody.
And Thomas Preining now goes absolute best in sector 2. He was about 1/10 of a second down in sector 1, but sector 3 is the longest sector. That takes in turns 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12, but he backs it right off. So it won't be this lap. Seen this quite a few times in this session. 2 quick sectors, then they back it off and think, no, I'm going to save my tyres and go for it on the next lap, and that's what Thomas Preining looks like he's doing. Meanwhile, Ricardo Feller, second quickest now, absolute best in that second sector. So Ricardo just coming into turn 9 at the moment. He's got a clear track in front of him. He's about to go into the last 3 corners in the Autosportsline Audi, and he might be the next one to go back to the top of the times. Luca Engstler about to come through, but it's only 14th place. Wait for the Autosportsline Audi then to come through into shot. Here comes Ricardo Feller. He'll be definitely a key challenger this afternoon, and he goes on to provisional pole position by nearly half a second. And there we go, back in the 121s, 121.3 for Ricardo Feller.
Still a lot of drivers needing to turn the heat up with less than 3 minutes remaining. One of them being Jack Aitken. At the moment, he's down in 13th place, so he is pushing hard. But Kelvin van der Linde, the quickest of anybody, once again in sector 1. So he and his teammate, they own the purples for all 3 sectors. But Kelvin van der Linde, 20.862 in sector 2. So Kelvin van der Linde, yesterday's winner, he'll be aware that he's going to have 20 kilograms of success ballast later on today. He needs a good grid position. Jack Aitken across the line into P4, 121.767.
And the Lambo's going well as well. Bortolotti was third, he's now 4th because another Lamborghini's just pipped in, Maximilian Powell. But Ricardo Feller is on another absolute flyer at the moment. Absolute best in the first 2 sectors, as onto the provisional front row of the grid goes his teammate Kelvin van der Linde. Ricardo Feller then just coming through turn 9 on the brakes into turn 10. Thomas Preining for now goes to the top of the times, just 81 thousandths of a second quicker than Ricardo Feller. And Ricardo now pushing on. Bortolotti's just done the absolute best first sector as well. This is going to be a real tight finish for pole position. This could be the last roll of the dice for Ricardo Feller, unless he can squeeze another lap out of those tyres. Through he comes, and it is quickest for now, 121.116. But Bortolotti and van der Linde, Kelvin, are the ones to keep an eye on. Kelvin has now gone quicker than Mirko did in the first sector. Bortolotti is further around the lap. He's about 30 seconds from home in the number 92 Lamborghini, which is just coming into turn 10 at the moment. Here he is then. Mirko Bortolotti on pole position last year, a race winner here last year, second in the other race. Things haven't quite got his way so far this year. He's had 1 podium finish. He probably feels he deserves more points than he's got. Can he make today really kickstart his season? The Italian comes through, goes to the top of the times. Provisional pole by 38 thousandths of a second. But only for now, because Kelvin's on a charge.
And Nicky Tim up into P3 as well. It's bumped Thomas Preining down to 4th and Kelvin van der Linde down to 5th. But as we've already seen, it's purple in sector 1 for Kelvin van der Linde. He's up to P2. So back up to the top. Preining is responding. Purple in sector 2. It's Preining who goes quickest with less than a minute remaining.
What a lap. 1 minute 20.901 seconds. He's not only done it, he's done it by nearly 2 tenths of a second. Preining quickest, Bortolotti second, Kelvin van der Linde third, Ricardo Feller down to 4th, Luca Engstler 5th place, fantastic effort. Luca was saying to me at the start of the weekend, I focus all my attention in free practice. I'm trying to get a good 1-lap pace for qualifying. Once I'm near the front, I think I can hold my own, but I've got to be up there in qualifying. So all my effort, my lack of experience on working on different setups going to qualifying, and that's a fantastic effort from him. The Lamborghinis are going well. Thomas Preining isn't yet done though. He's done the absolute best first sector again. He's already well clear. Anybody else on a good lap? Well, it's another personal best through sector 1 for Luca Engstler, but he is about 3/4 of a tenth of a second down. Preining absolute best through the second sector as well. So the checkered flag is out. Preining's already on provisional pole. Bortolotti comes through, 121.178. Second place takes the checkered flag. But it looks like Thomas Preining, his arch nemesis from last year, the driver that beat him to the title, is about to absolutely annihilate his own lap time here, if he can hold it together through the final sector. Here he comes. Thomas Preining fires it for the line and goes through 1 minute 20.858. Another half-tenth quicker, and by more than 2/10 of a second, he's on pole position. But Riccardo Fella still trying as he makes his way out through turn 12, gets on the gas on the Ab Sportsline Audi. He might not be going for pole position, but can he improve from 4th place and at least get up into the top 3? Goes over the line, he comes through, he goes second, nearly gets pole position.
Brilliant stuff.
Guys, honestly, unbelievable.
That's Thomas Preining, you can hear.
Thank you so much.
Well, it was tighter than it looked like it was going to be, didn't it? It was 2/10 clear. Riccardo Fella put in a real valiant attempt. He'd already done 2 quick laps as well. Managed to get a third out of the tyres after letting it cool down for a lap. And, well, I mean, it's a massive gap compared to yesterday, 44 thousandths of a second, but that is still super tight. Preining, Fella and Bortolotti, the top 3.
What an amazing session. Less than a second covering the top 18 cars. Notably in 18th place, the 2022 champion Sheldon van der Linde, and in 19th, Mauro Engel. So both of them going to have a long afternoon ahead of them. But at the front, the defending champion, Thomas Preining, they finally got that set up. Riccardo Fella alongside. Well, he will remember this race last year where he spent the whole race in second place. He was staring at the back of Mirko Bortolotti at that point. This year, the positions are reversed, so if he can get into turn 1 ahead, it'll be Bortolotti that'll be staring at the back of him. Revenge is a dish best served cold, they say.
I remember what happened yesterday. Riccardo Fella got past, guess who, into turn 1? Thomas Preining. Went from 3rd to 2nd. So if he can do that move again, that will get him the lead of the race. Fascinating grid. Really looking forward to this afternoon's race. So 3 points go to Thomas Preining. That puts him on 31 points, and that is going to move him up equal on points now with Arjun Maini. Mirko Bortolotti gets a point for 32, so he'll move up to well, 37th in the championship. He's on the same points as Luca Engstler now, but Luca's got a race win. And then we've got 2 points coming the way of Riccardo Fella. So Riccardo will move on to 37 points. So still 3rd in the championship, but only 6 points behind Kelvin van der Linde and Mauro Engel. And as you say, Brian, they are further down the order, but also they carry success ballast after their 1st and 2nd place finishes yesterday. There'll be 20 kilograms of success ballast for the race on Kelvin van der Linde's Audi. 4th on the grid. Still a good effort from him, but he's got that weight to carry in the race. And then for finishing 2nd yesterday, 10 kilograms of success ballast on Mauro Engel's car. And Mauro, yeah, still struggling with qualifying this year. I mean, this is his worst. I mean, his best qualifying of the year is 10th. I spoke to him about it yesterday. So what was happening? He said, well, we just weren't quick enough to react. He said, the track changed at Oschersleben. We were quick on Friday. We couldn't get on top of it on Saturday. It was quick in the race, but I keep getting these lowly grid positions and having to fight my way through. And unfortunately for him, he's last but one Mauro Engel, plus he's got 10 kilograms of success ballast to try and fight through the order somehow. Right then, Thomas Preining claiming pole position for the fourth time in his career for Manthey EMA, 1 minute 20.858. Riccardo Fella for Ab Sportsline just half a tenth behind him in 2nd place. Mirko Bortolotti for SS High Performance 3rd, 2 tenths adrift. Kelvin van der Linde, the championship leader, was only 18 thousandths of a second behind Mirko Bortolotti. Another good qualifying for Arjun Nguyen in 5th. Luca Engstler 6th. And then Nicky Tim and Marco Wittmann and Lukas Stolz also in the top 10. Lucas Auer, I think, will be disappointed with 11th. Christian Engelhardt and René Rast only 12th and 13th. Arjun Maini with his worst qualifying of the year so far in 14th. The Ferrari still struggling with Thierry Vermeulen and Jack Aitken in 15th and 16th. They had Clement Schmidt, Sheldon van der Linde back in 18th, Maro Engel back in 19th, and then Ben Durr to round out the top 20. We can go down now to the pits and catch up with Verena.
I've got Ricardo Feller here, and yesterday you were starting in qualifying, or you had a P3 in qualifying. Today you have a P2 in qualifying, so hopefully the race is going to be better than yesterday for you today.
Yes, that's also what I hope right now, but we'll be fine. Let's see what the weather does, but the car felt very good again, like yesterday. Unfortunately, just not enough for pole, but yeah, still really looking forward to the race.
And I'm sure you're going to push really hard in the race.
Like always.
Right, thank you very much, Ricardo. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Verena. Super chilled out as always. He's almost horizontal, isn't he, Ricardo? It's a really good attitude to have. He doesn't seem to get fazed by anything. So, Ricardo Feller on the front row of the grid for the first time this year. He's been one of the best qualifiers already this season. He'd averaged 5th on the grid before today. Of course, he's improved that average now. Mirko Bortolotti has been qualifying well as well. That's his 3rd time in the top 3, and he's amassed more points, of course. Been picking up those useful additional championship points you get from the qualifying sessions. 3rd place for Mirko, 2nd place for Ricardo Feller, but a first pole position of the season for the defending champion Thomas Preining. Can he get his first win of the season later on today? Right, we'll go back down to the pit lane now as you look at Thomas Preining's flying lap, one of them, and catch up with Verena.
And the man who's starting in P3 today is Mirko Bortolotti. And Mirko, last year you won here, so hopefully that's a good omen for the race.
Yes, last year was last year. This year is a whole different story. So I think we came into the weekend knowing we have a car that can be good enough for top 10. And putting in a P3 is a great achievement, a big lap. And I'm really happy with how qualifying went. Much higher than we expected.
All right, well, best of luck for the race. Thank you, Mirko. Back to you.
Thanks, Verena. Yeah, the Lamborghinis have been looking good, haven't they, this weekend? I don't think they quite got the rewards they really deserved yesterday because of the weather, but in the dry, they've looked good.
Yes, the weather played such a big factor as we look at this lap from Thomas Preining. And of course, without wishing to be the prophet of doom, to remind you, the weather forecast is decidedly iffy for this afternoon. So it could all change. And Maro Engel, of all the people, is probably doing a rain dance as we speak down in the pits.
Yeah, he most certainly is. What I didn't realise as well until this morning was that Maro Engel had an engine change overnight from the Friday to Saturday. The crew were up to 6 o'clock in the morning. So fantastic onboard coverage here from Thomas Preining. He'll get to, from his point of view, hopefully see a completely clear track ahead of him when he gets to the race later on. But 2 fantastic laps from Thomas Preining. In the end, he needed that second quick lap to just about fend off by 44 thousandths of a second Ricardo Feller. It's another super tight qualifying session. Olaf Mantai and the team absolutely delighted with that. That's it from the commentary team then. We'll go back down to Verena and we look forward to catching you later for today's race.
And I've got the reigning champion here, Thomas Preining. Yesterday, 3rd place. Today, you're starting in pole position, so well done. And again, talking about the weather, who knows what today's race is going to bring, but starting in pole position, that could be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have the best starting position, is what we work very hard for. So I'm extremely happy and content with how it went. Obviously in quali it was really on the limit. I almost lost the car 3 times in the final lap. But I'm just glad that everything worked out. And obviously now we have to cross the fingers, I think, especially for the fans. I felt really sorry for them yesterday in the rain. Let's hope we can enjoy the nice spring weather today.
Hopefully. Thank you so much, Thomas. And yeah, that was our qualifying, our Sunday qualifying, and now we're looking forward to a very exciting, hopefully dry race. So see you later. Here are the highlights. Do enjoy.